Hi there, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Copilot Lead Speak, the series where we talk to AI security experts from both inside and outside Microsoft to learn more about this very new area of technology. Today, I have Sherrod joining me. Sherrod, welcome.
Hi, Sarah. It's so great to talk to you. Good to see you.
I know, good to see you again. Now, Sharon, before we go any further, would you like to introduce yourself and tell everyone who's tuning in who you are and what you do here at Microsoft?
Sure. Hello, everyone tuning in. I'm Sherrod DiGrippo. I am the Director of Threat Intelligence Strategy at Microsoft. And essentially, I work on all things threat intelligence and figure out the best ways to use them to benefit our customers, the security community, and how to kind of make life really hard for threat actors.
Yeah, so I reckon you're probably pretty busy.
We are quite busy, and one of the things we've been really busy with is looking through all of the data that comes out of Microsoft Threat Intelligence, whether it's a tool profile, a vulnerability profile, a threat actor profile, atomic indicators, taking all of that information and making it available in Copilot for Security.
So, Sherrod, you're an expert in TI or threat intelligence. And of course, this is an AI security series that we're doing. So, I'm keen to hear from you how you think that all this new AI technology is going to affect or change the threat intelligence field. I'd be really keen to hear what your thoughts are on that.
I think, as AI evolves and really comes into so many different parts of people's lives, we try to think about, okay, in security, how do we secure that? How do we understand it? And I think we're really seeing that AI as a tool. And earlier this year, we put out a really great threat intelligence briefing that walked through the primary nation states and how we see them using AI within their capabilities. We went through North Korea, Russia, Iran, and China, walking through different threat groups based in those countries and how they're using AI. I think the thing that we're seeing now is that threat actors are using AI very similarly to how many of us in our daily lives are using AI, which is for research, making things a little easier, making things a little more efficient. And so, everyone, I think all people are somewhere on that journey of integrating AI into their lives. And threat actors are too.
Yeah. Um, do you think that this will specifically affect how we do things with threat intelligence using AI? Of course, as you just said, there's the both the defenders and the attackers are going to use AI, but will that change up how we create threat intelligence, how we consume it? Do you think, or is it too early to say?
I think that it is now. I think that AI is absolutely impacting the speed at which many threat intelligence analysts work. I think that report writing is greatly helped by having the ability to use a large language model to augment, fix, change written report structures. And that goes for any kind of writing, but threat intelligence is heavily written. And those briefings now can be um, improved or changed or reviewed with something like one of the co-pilots or any of the large language models we have access to. I think that's going to continue. And I also think that there's a little bit of resistance in the threat intelligence space to a new technology. I think that security in general is a group of people who are not quick to trust. And so we've got to continue to demonstrate that the AI tools that we have work, don't work, should be used or shouldn't be used. And so we're always kind of thinking about that.
Yeah, it's well, we all know that everyone's got a little bit of resistance to change, right? So that can be that can be challenging. Do you have any advice maybe for organizations that might be trying to add more AI into their threat intelligence capability that might be facing some resistance?
Mm, I do. I think, and this comes from sort of one of my core places, which is um, people from a behavioral economics perspective. People are happier to do things that they enjoy, and so if the tools that are on offer are not enjoyable to use, they don't make the analyst or the researcher or the architect or the designer or the engineer feel good, and they don't feel like a tool that is truly helping them, then that resistance will grow stronger. We've got to have AI tools available for the right people in the right scenarios. And so making them delightful to use is very important.
I like delightful. I'm going to use that more. Delightful to use is the way to go. And do you think that using AI will, because of course we've talked for many years in the industry about us having an explosion of signal, whether that's true threat intelligence or not, I know can be debatable, but certainly an explosion of signal. Would you say that AI is going to make that challenge worse, or what do you think? Because I'm just intrigued as to your thoughts on that.
I mean, that's one of those sort of what I say, like, is the struggle question. Is one of those struggle questions that everyone's dealing with, right? At Microsoft, we have 78 trillion signals a day that come in, and it's overwhelmingly vast. And we have to figure out how to effectively use those signals to protect people. Classic signal to noise ratio from the days past is a foundational problem in security and in threat intelligence. I think that AI, when used properly, will be able to help us with that. But there are plenty of tools that are not used properly and to their full benefit, and we see the continued struggle that creates. So it's almost a self-perpetuating loop that's, we have all this information coming in, the tools aren't good, which causes more information to come in, which causes us not to have the right tools to use that information. So I think that it's got to be deployed and handled properly. It's certainly a tool that is very prone to being, I don't want to say necessarily misused, but it's a tool that's prone to kind of making things harder instead of easier.
Yeah, I think I understand. I get where you're coming from for sure. And I kind of already asked this, but are there any other downsides that you see to potentially throwing more AI into the threat intelligence space? Of course, we talked about that, not using tools in the right way, but is there anything else that people should possibly, be aware of that might be a potential pitfall for them?
I think there are a lot of things to consider around that concept and around that concern, right? Like, security is very heavily about managing risk, and introducing new tools into an environment needs to be risk assessed. I would say that one of the things that organizations really need to understand is, we talk about the SBOM, the software bill of materials, like essentially what's deployed in your environment, and understanding that, and then adding an AI component to that. So not only what's deployed in the environment, but which of those things use AI, what models do they use, how do they use it, how often are those models updated and retrained. I think the pitfall really is a sort of dark spots and blindness and not really knowing what's in your environment. That's going to be a big problem.
Sherrod, you are a threat intelligence guru. That's why you have the position you have at Microsoft. And I think, although you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's probably fair to say that not all organizations are very good at handling threat intelligence. It tends to be those with more mature security functions. But if anyone is tuning in who's wanting to either improve their threat intelligence consumption or maybe just start doing that in a more structured way, do you have any advice for them? I've been asking all of our guests for advice for people because they know everything, or they know they're all experts in their field. So I like to hear from people.
So first, I would say I too am always learning. This is a curve for me as well, to constantly be keeping up with everything that happens. People love security because it moves so fast, and I'm one of those people too. But I will give a tip to the audience. If you want to start a fight on social media, here's how you can do it. Start off by talking about the usefulness of threat intelligence and the maturity curve of an organization and whether or not they truly can use threat intelligence. Where I come down on sort of that that's another struggle question where people are constantly having a lot of opinions on that. I really think that every organization can use threat intelligence. It's about the process that you leverage with it that makes it work for you. I think that getting skilled security operations personnel that understand the value of threat intelligence is the best way to go. Show them how it helps protect their organization and make things better, and show them kind of, for me, I find the joy in a great threat intelligence report, a great threat actor profile. Find the people that really enjoy knowing those things, and those people become your contextual guides. They become the protectors of the organization that add the why behind the how and when and where. And that can be very valuable to have that prioritization and that where do we put resources and how do we attack this? How do we fix this? How do we handle this? Threat intelligence really informs the answers to those questions. And I think having people that are comfortable using it is really important.
Yeah. Are there any, like, if an organization is brand new, or perhaps they don't have, because this is something that I think a lot of organizations face challenges with, they may not even have a dedicated security team. They might be one or two people who are admins. Are there any quick wins in the threat intelligence space that a smaller organization or an organization without a dedicated function could do to start using TI effectively?
I think that's a question that a lot of organizations are facing every day. One of the things that I think is really valuable, threat intelligence often is really centered around attribution. Microsoft uses an actor-centric threat intelligence approach, which in my opinion is sort of the best way to do it. I think if you're really just starting out, getting a little bit of an understanding of, for example, very broadly, this kind of threat is generally associated with nation state actors, and this kind of threat is generally associated with crimeware and financially motivated actors. Just getting comfortable with those different worlds, those different terms. And then, like many things in security, applying that in a customized way to your own environment. So, as an example, we typically don't see financial organizations really heavily targeted by nation state. Yes, it does happen. That is something that does happen, especially North Korea with their focus on cryptocurrency. But for the most part, there's certain industry profiles and certain human profiles that are more associated with different types of threat actors. So I think beginning there and understanding like your organization's profile against how you show up as a target, I think that can really help sort of make sense of the threat intelligence journey.
Now, I know that you've been very closely involved, Sherrod, with the Copilot for Security launch and supporting that, and helping customers use it as a security, an AI security tool. So I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about what you've seen there and what customers are using Copilot for Security for in the threat intelligence space.
It's been really interesting because we do have these early access preview customers who've had it for a while. And it's interesting hearing about the different ways that SOC analysts and security architects and security operations teams and security executives leverage the Copilot for Security capabilities. For me, what I've really focused on is those with access to Copilot for Security can so quickly get threat intelligence information. If they aren't generating it in-house, they can pull all of that out of the Copilot. And the other really cool thing that everyone talks about with Copilot for Security is the script analysis. So if you get malicious script samples, right, it's so cool. One of the number one things that I hear from, coworkers and colleagues and teammates for years is, I wish I was a better reverse engineer. Everyone wants to be a better reverse engineer. And Copilot for Security is such an amazing launchpad for that. It allows you to paste in scripts or entire malware code bases, like all of it, And Copilot for Security will walk you through what that particular script does, if it's malicious, how it works, all of these really wonderful contextual things that maybe you're just beginning to learn reverse engineering and script analysis. Maybe you're very seasoned, but you want to go faster. I think that it has a broad application across lots of different functional roles. I just want to mention one more really cool thing about Copilot for Security, because I know that a lot of the audience is quite technical, perhaps. And if you are, let me tell you, yes, it's going to save you time doing your job, but it's also going to save you time when your executives come ask you to do special things. If we can get your time back from, oh, my boss, my leader, my director, oh, they just came in and dumped all this work on me. Well, one, it'll help you do a lot of that work faster. But two, if those leaders have access to Copilot for Security, they're going to be able to self-serve so much better. And they'll be able to self-serve in a way that is on the level that they feel comfortable with before they need to pull in super highly specialized experts. So I know many of you in the audience have heard or had a request for, hey, I saw this on the news this morning. Our executives are worried about it. Where are we impacted here? Copilot for Security, oh my gosh, that's when you need it, because it takes so much of that effort and makes it faster. It accelerates everything. So I think that organizations are really seeing a lot of benefit because there's quite a bit of sort of that drudgery labor that gets pulled off when you don't have to do it because you've got the Copilot.
Yeah, I think it's we spoke to lots of cool guests, and I think one of the main themes that's come out is that getting rid of some of the drudgery, repetitive stuff that can really eat up into your time and free you up to do the more interesting stuff, right?
Yeah, that's one of the things that customers really talk about, especially I spoke with some incident responders at a customer. The incident response teams love it because it gives them so much information so quickly. And when you're doing IR, you're under that time pressure. I was just really impressed with all the different people that had all of these different use cases that I hadn't necessarily thought of, because I want threat intel. I want this amazing Copilot for Security that tells me about actors and IOCs and all these things. And frontline to operational security personnel have these whole huge use cases that they also employ too.
Yeah, it's definitely shaking things up, right? As AI is
I
across
know.
all of
I
technology.
know.
If anyone who wants to learn more about threat intelligence, or are there any good resources that you'd recommend that people go and look at, or not just resources to learn about threat intelligence, but understand the landscape at the moment?
Sure. We have the Microsoft Threat Intelligence blog, and also I'm the host of the Microsoft Threat Intelligence podcast. So if you want to just listen or read or any of those things, you have that option with the podcast and the blog. They do great landscape updates pretty frequently. So check those out.
Well, Sherrod, thank you so much for joining me today. I could talk to you all day, but I also know that you're a very busy individual and you have many other things you have to do. So I guess we will wrap it up there. But thank you so much again.
Thanks for having me, Sarah. This was really fun. I love that we're coworkers now.
I know and I can't wait till we get to hang out again in person and not remotely, which hopefully won't be too far in the future.
Let's do it.
Hopefully. And for those of you who are tuning in at home, thank you so much for joining us as well. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Copilot Lead Speak, where we've learned more about threat intelligence and AI security. Join us next time for another episode where we have another exciting guest. And until then, take care, and I'll see you on the next one.